Welcome from the School Construction Authority, Josh Adams. Welcome, Josh.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. WebEx is, I don't use it too often. Very often Teams or Zoom.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
okay. I guess I could just quickly pull up, I can start sharing my screen if that works for folks. So just bear with me for one moment while I do that. All right. Is it sharing?
It is.
Okay, good. All right. Typically, I see a red border to know if I'm sharing, but hold on, let me just move all these items that are blocking the screen here. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. I am Joshua Adams. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the School Construction Authority. I just wanted to share with you some brief updates, a little bit about our capital plan, and then kind of go over some capital improvement projects that are ongoing in Community Board 1 and some current or active Reso A projects as well. So I'll just start here from the beginning. So this is the Community Board 1 SCA project updates. Our mission here, just to let you know, is to design and construct safe and attractive and environmentally sound public schools for New York City students. Our focus is mostly on modernizing and building them in a cost-effective manner while achieving high standards of excellence, safety, quality, and integrity. So just to go over some brief notes here for our FY 20 to 24 capital plan, there's 20.1 billion allotted for these three programs within our capital plan. That's 8.75 billion allotted for capacity, 3.49 billion allotted for mandated programs, and 7.87 billion for capital investment. Capacity projects are projects that refer to buildings or building new buildings or additions to alleviate overcrowding and provide new seats. Our mandated programs are focused on abatement programs in our schools and local law mandates that we must also meet as well. And lastly, capital investment are these typical projects that you see going on, which typically involve exterior modifications, maybe exterior masonry, roof upgrades, flood elimination, etc. So just some citywide highlights. There's 7.87 billion allotted for capacity, 750 million for accessibility projects, 400 million for electrification, 1.02 billion for technology upgrades, and lastly 317 million for TCU, or what we call temporary classroom units or temporary buildings, removals and playground redevelopment. For new capacity citywide, we have 6.02 billion for new capacity. Within that capacity is a new 936 million for replacement programs, 655 million for class size reduction, and capacity room TCUs 267 million, and lastly early education for 876 million. So just to go over briefly what are some capital improvement projects, as I mentioned, these projects typically include masonry repair, window and roof replacement. They can include new boilers or climate control projects, electrical upgrades, repairing of major plumbing issues, as well as removal of TCUs and playground rehabilitation. We work closely with the Division of School Facilities, so DSF. These folks include school custodial engineers, plant managers, facility directors, and DSF central staff, with their focus on day-to-day maintenance and repair of school buildings. While I mentioned we do work together, we are separate agencies that work together on maintaining some our NYC public schools. So in Community Board 1, there's a few capital improvement projects that are ongoing or currently in design. So currently at Stuyvesant High School, or organization code M477, there is a room conversion project that is in design. And we have a cooling tower, ventilation, and voltage system upgrade that is going to occur at the building soon. That project has been bidded out and we have the contractor already. They're just in the process of obtaining permits. so they can go ahead and begin to mobilize and physically be on the school site. At M520, Murray Bergstrom High School, there's an exterior modification that is will be bid out later this year that is currently in design as well. And a gym upgrade that is also in design. And lastly, a lighting, ceiling, and auditorium upgrade that is in design at Murray Bergstrom also. And M234, this is the school located on Chambers Street. We have an exterior masonry project that is currently ongoing right now. We're currently mobilized on site there with an anticipated completion for that project for around fall of 2024. So just in short, how I kind of want to explain how something, how a capital project could end up on SCA's 5-year capital plan. So we typically present to community education councils on capital plan updates at the end of each year and in the early parts of the new year to go over those updates to the plan. They could come in the form of citywide initiatives, such as the AC initiative, which occurred throughout the COVID pandemic, funding from elected officials, a problem reported from the DOE's Division of School Facilities and emergency and emergency issues. This could be issues such as the school has an ongoing roof issue where a piece of the roof maybe fell off, or there's cracks on the facade where we would have an emergency sidewalk shed put in place. So we could inspect and scope out the school and prepare a capital improvement project at the location. And lastly, the building condition assessment survey, or BCAS report. This is a year-long survey where there's an inspection at all schools citywide to determine and assess the school's condition. We rate those conditions from 1 to 5. I believe with 4 to 5 being the worst conditions and 1 and 2 being in better conditions. We will scope out those projects, and based off that survey, we can create a capital improvement project to repair that school. So Resolution A projects. What are Resolution A projects? So these projects are school-specific capital improvement or enhancement projects. They are funded by individual grants from New York City Council members or borough presidents, and these projects are important to the school community due to the fact that they may help the Department of Education enhance the facilities in existing public schools. So once a city council member or borough president decides to designate a grant, the SCA would be responsible for scoping out that project and overseeing the design and construction. I believe right now at 234, which is again that school on Chambers Street, 345 Chambers Street, there are some water fountains that may be being replaced right now by DSF. At 477 Stuyvesant High School, there's a room conversion project that I believe that is ongoing as well, that's being conducted by DSF, and a recording studio that'll be that is currently in scope. For M520 Murray Bergstrom campus, there is a Reso A science lab, hydroponics lab also that is in scope. So the next step through scope would be to design those projects and then bid and award those projects. So I wanted to thank you for those update for allowing me to come present today. I did want to just go back because I think I might have missed a couple things on capacity. Trinity Place, or PS 150, that school was recently opened, I believe that near the end of last year, around September of 2022. That is currently occupied, so that is a new building. And we also have a capacity project for the Harbor School, which involves a annexed building and a new building, which would include a gym and a pool. Both the annex building has an anticipated occupancy for September 25, and the new building has an anticipated occupancy for September 2026. So let me scroll back to the end there. So I just want to thank you folks. Here is my contact information should you have any questions in the future. But I would also be open for questions now if folks have some questions.
Thank you so much, Josh. I'll start off with my questions. Thank you for reminding us all about the Harbor School. I'm looking forward to our meeting later this month to see the plans, which I will then be presenting to the committee in April, hopefully. Um, and I'm glad to hear we had hoped for 2025, and I just heard that part of it's 2026. Can you let us know, was that a recent development or had I misunderstood it? That, it's opening a year later than we had thought.
You talk about the annex or the new building?
Yeah, well, what you had said, one of them was opening in 2026.
That's the new build. The new building, 2026, and the annex 2025.
Okay, all right, very good. So we'll have the new build, will be the gym and the pool? Or,
Yes, and some other spaces as well, other classrooms, I believe.
as they are, as you know, um, in pretty dire straits in that they need a certificate. They need a certificate that needs a pool to get their graduation certificate, and they've been going back to Brooklyn, as some of you know, to use the pool there. So I know how anxious they are and how grateful we are that this is finally happening. So that's wonderful. And then I wanted to quickly ask you, the bucket that is for class size reduction, can you walk us through? Um, because I haven't heard that by the SCA before. I heard from the DOE a lot, and I knew Kathy Hochul had, passed some legislation about, reducing class size, but I hadn't seen how they were going to fund it. So I was happy to see that you had it in the budget. And just if you could walk us through what that looks like in terms of how the SCA works to achieve class size reduction through school building.
Sure. Where typically a class size reduction program would be something along, I think this would be outside this district, but we do have a capacity project way uptown for 502, which is going to combine two schools that were initially separate, um, that'll be in a larger building, but should allow for smaller classes. This would also occur, I believe, whenever we do in addition to an existing building to provide an accessory, well, I guess you could say an accessory space to the current building to allow for increased capacity to help alleviate uh, uh, the classroom size. As far as like how DOE coordinates how those classrooms are set up or divvied out, that'd be up to DOE. The SCA's focus is just solely on building those spaces to help alleviate those concerns where there's uh, too much capacity in an existing space.
So would it be correct to say that it really mostly is to alleviate overcrowding and not so much class size reduction in terms of the SCA involvement? I mean, 'cause
Yeah,
I think when we hear that, oh, great, they're finally going to 25 maximum for, grades 2 through 12.
right. Yeah. So yeah, it's focused on, alleviating those, I guess, overcrowded school buildings um, where they currently exist. So we try to build new spaces where DOE has reported to us that there's extreme overcrowding, such as the Harbor School or M502 Uptown.
Right. Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying that. And my last question for you before I open up for the committee is, one of the concerns that we've had in the past, and we've never actually had the opportunity to sit with you and ask, is that why is it so expensive? When we were looking at the square footage cost of building, it was, beyond the cost of luxury condominium construction. And I know it's a big concern of not only the people in our community district, because, our history has been because of this expense, it has taken us a long time to get the facilities that we have. We are very fortunate in that we have gotten our facilities, thanks to the SCA and the DOE, over the last 10 years, quite a few of them.
hmm
But we are concerned about the cost. Can you share with us some of the reasons why um, it costs so much to build schools?
Yeah, I think the cost is really kind of associated with just the fact that we're working in this very densely populated area of the country here in New York City. This brings additional challenges as well, just with limited real estate that exists, as well as including site acquisitions or limited spaces that we're working in, as well as existing environmental remediation costs when we start these projects. These can include soil testings that happen at new spaces where it raises costs and additional challenges. We also have to match prevailing wages. While the SCA does choose the lowest bidder, union wages and benefits must still be matched. So it's just highly costly to do work in New York City due to these other these ongoing concerns, as well as while the supply chains are getting better, the cost of just doing construction is significantly higher due to those constraints that were placed on during COVID, which are still recovering, not just in construction, but many industries where shipping or construction materials involved.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, Wendy.
Thanks, Joshua. That's really a great update. Like Tricia, I've been a part of seeing how the new builds have happened for many schools in our community board, and we're very grateful for that. But
Mhm.
one of the things that we raise literally at every single meeting, and I'm surprised Tricia didn't bring it up, is that I still don't understand why the principals don't have direct access to the architects and designers. Everything has to be, I think that's one of the reasons your costs are so high, is because it's a very inefficient process. And we have seen multiple schools open, and I'm happy to go through the list. We've written resolutions about this in the past that
Mhm.
literally build things that the principals don't ask for, that puts sharp edges in that nobody wants for an elementary school. Um, Spaces that are just not exactly what the principal really needs. And one of the things that comes down over and over again when we ask the questions is, has the principal, and not even the current principal, but like a consortium of principals who went through this in the past, we could do it in many different ways. Is there any direct feedback with the architects or the designers? And what we're told is that's just not the way it's done. And I have gotten so frustrated. I've asked elected officials to do an audit because I think it's just something's not right. And so I welcome you into the position. I hope you come and visit with us often, but I will ask this every single time until it changes. It doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Yep. So Wendy, every time we do any project in a school, when that project's in the design phase, um, our design team who's associated with that project, and the architect, and myself, in many cases, I try to attend these, but there's always ongoing meetings where I may have to be elsewhere. But the architect and the designer and other folks in the SAA meet with the school principals, and the custodian to explain what the intended scope of the project is going to be, um, and just kind of field any questions they may have. I recently attended one about a cafeteria upgrade. We had the architects there, Annie was there, myself, and we went over the scope of the work. And they raised some concerns about that space, which the designers would take back and review and see where feasible to make those changes. And if not, report back to the school on on why they can't make those changes. Then we move through the process of once it goes out to bid, or before it goes out to bid, we meet with them again. We go over the scope of the work. Um, they get in again, can raise additional concerns,
But I don't think it's
and
a
then it all
partnership.
falls good.
I don't think it's a partnership. I think it's you tell them how it's going to be. Because Maggie, Sienna, we'll just go through the list of every principal. I literally think that, Tricia, when have we started? It's been since like 2006.
So Josh, I will say, since you have been at the SCA, this process has gone better than it ever has. I do want to bring that to the group's attention because I've had the opportunity to work with you recently. I do want to say that PS 150 still had issues, and we've had the same ones historically here. And the way it looks is those meetings you're talking about do happen. For instance, when the design phase is beginning, just as you did with the harbor school, there's a lot of mechanical requirements for the pool, the weight, the way that it can't be tiled because of the equipment. You have been incredibly responsive to that, and you communicate that to the architects. I think when things fall apart is once the construction begins. And I think that inevitably with any kind of construction, you're going to hit these roadblocks. And you're going to see that, oh, the water table doesn't permit this to be 12 feet. Let's just do 10. Or, oh, we didn't understand that there was a firewall there that we have to get around.
Right.
We're just going to
Yeah.
do this. So what happens is the original understanding then takes a different shape. And in Nico's case, he wasn't allowed in the building once the construction had begun. And it was, said that it was safety measures, it was this and that. And then when he is allowed in, oops, it's all over. So sorry, too bad. And I think what we dealt with at 276 were tiny little rooms that they couldn't use for classrooms. There wasn't enough space. Oh, but we thought that was a music room. Nope, that was actually supposed to be a classroom. And the principal didn't have this opportunity to give live feedback to the architects and designers as they hit those roadblocks, as they took those turns, as they had to convert some of the space. And I think that what Wendy's saying, because she's been, we've been side by side through the beginning of this since Spruce Street was built in 2009, is that in every case we've had this communication issue, and we do feel as though, well, we do know that it was an incredibly costly project as a result of a lack of direct communication. And it has been explained to me by Lorraine Grillo that they don't want there to be side conversations between the educators and the architects that the SC isn't involved in. They're concerned about this triangulation, totally get it. But there is a way to meet more often. And this is where I'm going to call out that you've been great about. Josh has, I want to tell everybody, has actually initiated our meetings for the Harbor School. He's been phenomenal. And so really what we're talking about is a blend of what happened before. It is something that we're really focused on, though, because we have seen a lot of waste. And we would like for that process to change, and we do believe there's a way to change it so that there can be efficiencies. Morton?
Yes, I just had a quick question, if you know, Josh. The sidewalk bridge and scaffolding on PS 150 is still up. It's in connection with the construction of the residential apartments. I wonder if you have any knowledge about when the timetable might be for that to come down. I know it's not the SCA that's has the bridge and the shed up, but maybe you have some information on that.
I don't have the current timetable, but I can find out what the latest is and see if there's a timeline we can provide on what we've heard from them.
Yeah, that would be great, because it's still, it still congests the drop off and the pickup in the morning and the afternoon. All the parents dropping off.
PS 150.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. If you want to just leave your question with Trisha, and and she can shoot me an email and I'll follow up her.
Okay, we'll do.
And Rosa?
Thank you, and apologize to everybody that I was late. I was having some technical difficulties. So I guess, hi Josh, nice to meet you. I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already said when I wasn't able to log in, but so I am on. So I'm at PS 150, or my son is at PS 150, and I've been on the SLT for a little bit, including when we were planning the move to the new location, and it has been granted, it was not you. You had nothing to do with it. And from everything Trisha says, you're awesome, and we appreciate that. But I do know that the experience was very difficult, because it was like trying to get access to information when planning to move into the new building was incredibly challenging. Trying to get our principal, Nico, into the school was not happening. That like a few days before the school is supposed to open, he was sitting in the park across the street from the school and still not being allowed in, which is crazy. And in the end, I think any person can look at the situation and say that the people who are going to be the end users of the building, I understand that you bring a lot of expertise and experience into this, as do all of the other people that are involved. But the reality is you guys step out of the project and somebody else has to live in it, right? And that somebody else are the administration and the teachers. And so they should have a seat at that table, and they should be able to say, this is what works for us and this is not what works for us. So I cannot underline that any more deeply, that that needs to be done, that you need to integrate the end user who actually lives in the space for years after you guys have stepped away. Their voice is important into the success of the project. So I guess that was point one. Number two, there is, beyond the sidewalk sheds, there's also just leftover storage space beside PS 150 that is not necessary. And it would be really wonderful if that could just be relocated somewhere else and integrated onto, you know, the space that they are utilizing. And then going forward for other projects, so number three, just again to ditto what Tricia and what Wendy are saying, there are inefficiencies here, and perhaps with efficiencies of integrating different voices into the conversation, things could be done faster. There are learning moments, and perhaps convening the principals and the teachers from the schools to get a sense of what could have been improved over the process would help other projects going forward, right? Because we can't go backwards, but at least going forward, perhaps it could be more efficient. And I don't know how often the SEA makes a point to touch base with the end users to understand what worked and what didn't. Because I'm being told there's equipment that legally principals aren't even allowed to get rid of, and so it's taking up space in buildings that don't have enough space, but it can't be used, right? So that's a waste of money, that's a waste of time, it's a waste of space, which is a premium in New York City. So it would be awesome if we didn't have that situation coming around with every school that's being built. And then my very last point is thank you, because I know that it was really difficult for you guys to work so hard on such an expedited schedule to get PS 150 in there. I know there's been some growing pains and still some work that didn't get complete, but thank you, because we know that without all of your hard work, I don't know about you specifically, but the entire SCA, to be able to get it together in a really, really tight timeline to get our students into that school, that was like a major lift, and we really, really appreciate the major lift. So we just want to work with you guys to try to like make it better, make it faster, make it a space that's the best that it can be, because we only have one shot at building it out, right? Each one. It's a little traumatic. So I know we can do better. So we should try to do better. And you cannot find a group of more seriously invested people than the people here. Tricia and Wendy, especially, who have dedicated literally years of their life to building schools. And I think I saw Tammy here too, to building schools in our community that are desperately needed as we grow at incredible rates down here. They care, they remember everything, and they are fighting for our students and our families. So all of you, thank you. But yeah, we need to improve a bit.
And Josh, I'm going to give you, thank you so much, Rosa. Josh, I'm going to also just, this committee is going to be looking forward now that we are out of our panic stage of overcrowding that you missed, where we had 200% growth in this neighborhood with virtually no schools planned post 9/11. It was unbelievable to have lived through, to be honest with you. Now that we have met the need, which is fantastic to say, what seems to be our biggest challenge now is that we are not building schools from the ground up. We are building them in office buildings, as you know, more than anyone. And the footplates are not providing enough space for full-size gyms and auditoriums and these common spaces that the schools rely so heavily on, especially because we're in a dense city and we don't have yards and outdoor playing fields and things like that that they have in the suburbs. These common spaces are incredibly important. They are important for socio-emotional growth in terms of, theater and dance and expression and competitive sports have been proven to bring people out of poverty, change their lives, provide opportunities for college. There's something that is not an amenity, it's infrastructure. And we're deeply concerned at this trend. And I think you were at the meeting, you might have been, you might not have been, where Andrea said, we're really excited about these convertible dance spaces that we're able to provide that we never were. And it turns out they were in place of gyms. So much so that we have 3 of our schools, only 3 have full-size gyms out of 9, which is, becoming really tricky. We are lucky that Trinity, Wall Street, built a community center of their own and have opened it up to the public schools in our neighborhood. And I was not surprised to find that it was booked solid 7 days a week, 24/7, within 2 months. The need was so great. And so one of the things we're going to propose that I would love to just introduce tonight in front of you, and Kelly is here as well, is that we would like to propose that the SCA start looking at freestanding gyms that serve community schools. I think it's going to be much more efficient than trying to build them in these office buildings. I think it's, it was incredibly costly to try to figure out the shape of that gym at 150. We were hoping was going to be full size. I have to say, given the footplate, I'm impressed with what you came up with. It was unbelievable. But I don't think that's efficient. And I think that there are so many spaces, and now that commercial real estate prices have fallen, it's a perfect opportunity to look outside the box with building these spaces. Kelly McGuire can tell you about his challenge trying to find common spaces just to have simple performances for his middle school when he was a principal of LMC. My daughter went there. We had to beg, borrow, and steal from anyone around us for every single event, graduation, any gathering, because they had nothing. So I just wanted to say that out loud in front of everybody and plant that seed, because it is going to be something we're focusing on going down the road here. And I'd also like to introduce you to our chair now, Tammy Meltzer, who might want to say a few things.
I thank you so much. I cannot, first and foremost, I truly appreciate your time and your patience for coming to us today. We have had a long-term relationship with the SCA in Lower Manhattan. We really hope to have an open dialogue. We appreciate you coming. We know that community boards are not always the easiest people to chat with sometimes. We seem unreasonable, we seem demanding, we seem many things, but we are here to advocate for the families and the communities. Our perspectives are very different as the end users, as you can imagine. From Trisha, who her kids have come through the system from little to now out, to myself who's still in it, to some people on this call who are just starting in the system. We all have different experiences. I am a founding family from one of the new schools that we built. So my involvement in the community board world started sitting in a room in our Senate, in one of our electeds' office, screaming because they were going to bus my then 4.5-year-old to a school in Chinatown that was already at 120% capacity. Right. And we got new schools built. So I am really, really understanding. I remember going through all the Blue Book changes and through the conversations that we have had over the years in partnership and working together on gymatoriums, no gymatoriums, flex spaces. And the one thing that I will echo with what Rosa has said, this has been a recommendation. And I think that I hope Joshua, you are the one who pursues this from the SCA. The most important thing that we have advocated for over the years is a working group dialogue with an experienced school community, including the principals. I don't know one principal, not one, after the decades of New York City education I have, that would say a gymatorium is the best way to build community within their school for their own needs, the after school needs, and everything else. Is it better than nothing? Absolutely. No one's going to argue that. But no one's going to argue we understand small footprints, but having a dialogue with each community to find a way to maximize that works for the community is really important. I don't know how to crack the door at SCA. We think we have conversations in the beginning, but when the product comes out at the end, it's sometimes the conversation that Rosa had is very familiar to me with things that are planned that are either not functional, don't fit. And you know, hindsight is always 2020. So I'm not sure how we can do engagement, but I would really like if somehow we can have a discussion about engagement for real life users. You know, Harbor School being the best, you know, making sure that the people who are building the building understand exactly what the weight loads are for something like a scuba tank on the deck, because it's very different. If you've ever gone scuba diving, the weights, the tanks, the this, the that. You know, there are many, many different things. Understanding simple things like we have a gorgeous brand new buildings that sometimes don't function as intended. And it's too hard to go back afterwards and fix them. It's costly. So that would be my one pitch for. We are incredibly grateful for the hard work that you do and the accelerated timelines that you work in, and the ability, like a stick shift car, to downshift and just get it done when people say, oh, they're never going to get there. And so we really appreciate where you are and who you are. But we also believe that with a little more engagement on the front end, we'll save some of the angst on the back end. And with that, I say it is my incredible gratefulness that you came today. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll be sure to take these comments back to my team at SCA, and you know, raise these concerns you folks have with my management team as well.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It really has been a pleasure working with you, Josh, and I'm looking forward to seeing you later in the month.
All right. Yep, me too. We'll be ready to share those updates.
Thanks so
Josh.
much.
When you get a minute, send me the presentation, Lucy. Tricia, would you like to go with item 2, or would you like CEC to speak because they emailed us at the last minute?
I think Kelly McGuire, our District 2 Superintendent, has been waiting, so I would love to be able to bring
Okay,
him
I'll
in.
move her over.
Thank you again, Josh, and you're welcome to stay if you like, but I know your time is short. I'd like to welcome Kelly McGuire, our District 2 Superintendent and our ex-president, or ex-principal of Lower Manhattan Community Middle School. Kelly. Can't hear you.
Thanks so much for having me and to being reintroduced to the conversation around building schools in Lower Manhattan. I feel like this has been a part of my life for the last, 15 years or something like that, but not as intensely involved as you all, of course. And I am going to apologize just at the start because I do have just a few minutes at this time, but I'm very happy to come back for next month's meeting as well. But I do just want to highlight a couple of things that are going on that I think are specific to Lower Manhattan. One is that we are beginning to plan out our summer programs, and there are several Lower Manhattan schools that are going to be a part of that work. IS 289, PS and IS 276 will have a K through 8 program. PS2, PS 130, and MS 131 in Chinatown. So there will be a lot of different options for kids in grades kindergarten through 8 this summer. And so we're working closely with the principals to provide both the academic and enrichment programs that will be held there. We are looking at a couple of new schools, the PS 89 building that's going to have a new allocation of security cameras. That school has been looking for cameras for a very long time, both in order to monitor inside and outside activity. And so the principals in the building are really excited about that. Also just a couple of things that are coming up. People are probably very aware of the fact that high school offers are coming out tomorrow. Not sure how many people that affects here on this call. And then also April 3rd is the CEC candidate forum. So people can look and see who it is that is running for CEC in the next for the next term. So I do have a couple minutes to answer questions if people have them. Otherwise, like I said, I am also very happy to return next month.
Anyone have any questions? Wendy?
I didn't really have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you, and it's great to see your face. And I'm sure that I guess one of my questions is just New York City just has so many challenges when it comes to education and budgets and all this stuff. Just what are your worries right now, or concerns, or that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, from my end of things, the worries and concerns are primarily related to making sure that our kids are being safe, that they're back in school, that they are getting along, and then certainly that we are accelerating learning. We saw kind of flat scores across the district in regards to ELA, a small drop in math. But we're looking to really advance and accelerate both math and literacy in the coming year. And we've got some good plans to do that. And so that work, working in partnership with our community-based organizations to provide great after-school programs is another real piece too.
Yeah, and I had one other follow-up. How about Mayor Adams' screening for dyslexia early? Is that happening everywhere, or what have you learned?
So there are some pilot programs that are out there. We don't currently have a dyslexia program that is up and running yet in District 2. We do have some other structures that are in place. The universal screening of students starting in kindergarten in regard to their academic performance. Prior to last year, it was a bit school by school in terms of how it is that we evaluated students. But now there is a comprehensive and consistent process across the district by which we evaluate student reading. So that is in place and becoming very well established. So as a district, we are making sure that we're utilizing that information to the best of our ability to make sure that kids get supports, programs get implemented, curricula is followed, and students are learning as quickly as possible and to the best of their ability too.
Two quick questions from me, Kelly. One, on that same theme, there had been talk about a freestanding school for kids with learning issues. Is that still in the works, or at least in the possibility?
It's definitely something that is still in conversation. The last that I spoke with SCA about it, it was there was not a timeline planned for the building yet. But the proposal is very much there. They're very much aware of it. But we don't have a timeline for that right now.
Okay, great. Also, we had like a lot of trouble. I know this is not really your area, but I know you do hear about it from the families in elementary. We had 20% of our kids not get any matches the first year of the high school change. Have you seen some improvement in what you see going out this year?
I haven't seen the exact numbers. Our enrollment office has said to me that the numbers look better. So we are hoping very much for that. But I have also been in talks with High School Superintendent Beitelman to see what other strategies we might be able to put into place down the line so that we don't run into the same challenge that we did last year with kids not getting a placement.
We're just aware of the fact we've lost a lot of our families, and these are families who pulled out of elementary school too. And now we're actually ironically under-enrolled at a couple of our schools because of fearfulness about not being able to stay all the way through here, with high school being such a question mark. So I'll just send that back with you as a great concern, obviously, because we wouldn't want that to happen to our elementary schools. So we're still trying to sort it against what happened with the pandemic,
Yeah.
but that's what we're hearing in my chair. And then Rosa, you had your hand up.
Yes, and following up on that. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing?
Hi. Hey, Rosa.
Following up on that, I'm talking to families, and I know that we are actually having loss from middle school onwards because there is some concern about that whole process, and so families are choosing not to take that risk. Some families are choosing, and these are very heavily involved families, and so we're talking about people who are, on the PTA, who are class parents, who are definitely sort of that invisible support for the school communities that really help our schools thrive, over all of the different school years. And that's an enormous loss, both for, our schools as a community, but also for the institutions, because they do a lot of heavy lifting in the background. And so just putting it on your radar that the next time you're here, I think we really do need to dive into, like, what is middle school like? What is
And I'm
high school
happy to,
like,
I'm
so that-
happy to come back next month when we know what's happened this cycle for sure.
Thank you for
Thank
that. Tammy, would you like to say a few words before he jumps?
A couple of questions, actually. So I'm going to take a different tack from enrollment because my kids got into a high school, so we've made it through. I'm happy that I'm in they're freshmen in high school now. But what I'd actually like to ask about is two things: cyber safety, online monitoring, and mental health. So one of the things that we've seen rise through the pandemic that continues to escalate beyond reality, and you've seen it with suicides in other areas that's been widely reported, gun violence, things like that throughout the city, drinking, partying, is what system does the DOE have in place for monitoring kids online? So if they're talking through whatever cases, I've seen a consolidation into students not being able to email, for example, out of the school system. So you have to have a DOE versus any other, which then has produced a couple other things. They can't, for example, send an email to a teacher and copy a parent because the parent doesn't have a DOE email address, so they're prevented from communicating outside the system, which in a way I understand is for cyber safety. But on the other hand, it very closed, because I also then can't email the teacher with a copy to my kid's school address, right? Just bizarre. But what overall systems in place for monitoring kids to find the dangerous content? That's one question. And then on the other side, there is lots of conversation and requests and about mental health, and per 1,000 kids, 100 kids, social workers and mental health experts that are in high schools and middle schools, and whether there is a plan to increase those numbers at all, or is that not a budget line? Because that is something that we can advocate for. I think Tricia would probably remember, and maybe Wendy, a team from Stuyvesant High School came to us pre-pandemic, funny enough, to ask us to support their requests for additional mental health specialists on campus. I use the word on campus.
Sure. In regard to the first question, I'll answer with like three different thoughts. Number one is that the Department of Education has put quite a few structures in place where we have the reach to control what kids are gaining access to. And that means whether they are accessing the internet through using a Department of Education issued device, whether they are accessing the internet through websites and systems that are under the Department of Education domain. So a lot has been done just in the past couple of years to make sure that those are safer. And the central DIIT office has assured me that they're continuing to try to find ways to make sure that kids don't get around those loopholes, although we know that kids are very, very smart. The second thing I will say is that relationships with kids are going to be, I think, our most important matter of defense when kids are trying to access or or there may be dangers that appear online. When kids have good relationships with their teachers and with their schools, then they talk about those things more openly and share. And so it may not sound very techy to say that a relationship with a teacher is a line of defense in regard to cyber safety, but I think it most certainly is. Because that's where it is that we learn what kids are accessing, where it is that they are getting into trouble, and what it is that how it is that we can guide them. And then that leads into the third thing, which is that the curriculum that is being taught both in elementary and in middle school in regard to cyber safety, like the direct lessons on this, is currently being reviewed. So that teachers are better equipped to be able to handle questions that are coming up. So I would say that the three of those things are how it is that we're approaching this.
Is it limited to if and when they're signed on with a DOE email? Do they have the opportunity to engage outside with an outside email within DOE? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I hear you express this concern, I hear you talking about it both in regard to, when a child might be trying to, both when a child is in school and when a child's out of school. If they have a private cell phone, then there isn't a control that we can place on that device if it is not in any way connected to DOE systems. But I think that the other factors are important, and it's our responsibility to educate kids and keep them safe. And so this is one of the ways that we're doing that. And then I think that relationships are the way that we're really trying to do that. And then I would just say that the final item on in regards to social workers and guidance counselors, you would not find an educator who would not support high quality, well-trained social workers and guidance counselors in schools, and that kids should have access to those folks often and regularly. It's a big part of how it is that we want to help kids navigate the challenges of being a student in the city, and so we're always supportive of that. And definitely, it's one of those things that we have seen as an improvement that may or may not have happened without had the pandemic not raised the real need in our schools for social workers. So that's been a very well welcomed addition to our schools. So, and I do apologize, but I'm sorry, I do have to run. Otherwise, I might not have a family if I don't come back. So, but
Understand. And next,
Morton,
we'd
or
love to
if
see
you
you
want to
again.
email Mr. Minsley, if you want to email me, I'm happy to answer your question or give you a call. But I apologize for having to
Sure,
run.
Kelly. You can call me Morton, by the way.
Okay.
We
call me
met at
Kelly.
PS 150 down in the fall. If you're
Trisha,
I
you also
remember
have
I met you before. Yeah.
there's also someone in the public space. So
Yeah,
Have to
Tammy, I
be.
have it.
We'll see him again.
you ha-
Kelly has let us know that he's happy to come back, and
Anytime.
we'll look forward to that. And thanks so much for tonight. Appreciate you
Thanks.
coming.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Great.
We
Bye-bye.
have Keish Das. Would you like me to unmute the individual?
Yes, please.
Kashi.
Kashi? Okay, thank you, sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hello. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Is there an easy way to turn on video, or is that not an
Yes,
option for
Lucy's
the-
going to move you over as a panelist. So sorry. Hang on a sec.
No problem. Start video. Little dark, but hopefully you can see me. Hi, how are you? I just want to introduce
Welcome.
myself. Some of you Some of you do know me, but my name is Kaushik Das. I'm from CECD2. That's, for those of you who might be less familiar with the jargon, that's Community Education Council District 2. We're a panel of, do I need to go into this, Tammy? I think I do, right? None of them may be well familiar with this. We're a panel of 11 people, 9 of whom who are elected by you, the parents, to represent you in District 2, which is where you guys, the school district that you reside. I think you guys know that. Elections were, well, they're about to happen again. They were 2 years ago when a year and a half ago when I was elected. I, at the time, was at PS 276, which is where I know Tammy from. Just as an aside, I am the liaison for PS 276. I am also the liaison for PS 150. Rosa knows me as well. I have some comments there. Is the SEA gentleman still on, or is he left already?
He has left.
Okay,
but he-
I'll leave my comments for you, but I'm happy to make them again when he comes back to you next month. This year I was also elected vice president of the council. And one of my other duties, I also am head of the admissions and diversity committee, and admissions. I know high school and middle school admissions you guys talked about. That's an issue for you guys, and I can talk about all those. Happy to talk about all those things. I don't know if you see another woman from my council was supposed to join us, Daniela Egorov. Is she here as well?
Not see her, no.
Okay, she was supposed to. She was the vice president before me. She also lives down here, and she's also co-chair of the safety committee for our council as well. And we both made a commitment to come back. Well, it may or may not be the two of us, but either the two of us or somebody else from our council will definitely be happy to return. I would like to address some of the things that did come up regarding PS 150. I echo a lot of what has been said. I would thank the gentleman for getting it done in a quick time frame. But I know Rosa knows that I represented the school as a liaison at a site hearing where almost everything you guys said certainly was brought up. It is disappointing to know that they continued up until the very end of construction, particularly the principal not being allowed to come in. It was brought up again at a PEP hearing. Which is the Panel for Educational Policy, which advises the chancellor. I spoke there as well, and I think either Rosa or her PTA president had trouble speaking there as well, which was also disappointing to me, which I did also note when I did get a chance to speak. So I hope I advocated well for you guys, but it is disappointing to know that it did still went down. Unfortunately, that experience is typical from what I've heard from SCA. And particularly disappointing to me also was the gym. I have heard the SCA say before that, look, real estate in Manhattan is a premium. It's hard to get a hold of these things. I understand all that, but that's what almost makes this even more disappointing, because I think, as my understanding, Rosa, correct me if I'm wrong, is a gym was in the original plans and then removed.
It was approved in September 2016. I was at the meeting myself, and Michael Mirasola held up a photograph and congratulated themselves for coming up with space for a full-size regulation gym. It was in the local paper, which they have those articles as well, and they never really addressed it. They never dealt with it and faced it. And I think that's why I said what I said to Josh tonight, is that, you know, it must feel awful to not have come through with what they said they were going to do. But the shroud of secrecy and the hiding is something that really has to end. They are public servants. And I think that we need to really reestablish that relationship for what it is. And the end user, as Rosa, it's the best word I've ever heard to describe why it's so important, is we are the end users of the buildings. We definitely deserve to have and need to have a voice in what happens as they are built out. And we do need to understand why it costs $820 a square foot. We absolutely have to understand that. We're taxpayers. And so it's not personal, but it has to be dealt with. And the PEP, the way those representatives are elected, unfortunately, they don't have boots on the ground. And so it tends to be a fait accompli by the time things get there. So the structure needs reorganization, right?
I hear you.
I think you know that. I can see you nodding. And we've been a long time, and I'm sure you've worked really hard to continue advocating for our community, and we thank you for serving. It's a tough job.
I did, yeah, I did what I could. We have a lot of other things on our plate, obviously. I wasn't at some of those original meetings, for which apologies, but I got a full briefing on this from Rosa, the principal, and the PTA president. I think I conveyed all those points. The site hearing itself is disappointing. They ask you for your opinion. I said all those things that we just discussed, and they just kind of record it and move on.
Yeah.
The PEP hearing is even worse in some respects, that you say the same things and they just vote on it and move on. So it's disappointing that it just seemed to be echoed at every single level, and then was never and nothing was ever done. So anyway,
think
I'm preaching to the choir, but
are.
I'm happy to come back and say these things to the SCA next time if you'd have me.
So hey, Tricia, maybe it's time to write a resolution about asking for an audit again, because that's when we were doing Build Schools Now a gazillion years ago, we asked for an audit. Maybe we asked for one from the comptroller.
Yes, we were unable to get that done with the previous controller, but I've talked to Tammy about the fact that we do want to do this. So I do think it will be soon. I think we have a good opportunity right now.
If you need
Tammy,
any signature support or help from CEC, let us know.
This is actually one of the reasons why I'm really excited that Kush came, is that I think there's a large amount of disconnect between what happens with the Department of Education, the SCA, no offense to them, but CEC, because it's not the only people who go to the CEC are people who are 100% education involved, right? It's a very niche thing. So niche reporters as well. And I mean, anybody who has been to one of those meetings knows how off the hook, off the chain, and wild they can be, which is awesome for the couple who are always yelling for attention. But my hope is that the community boards, which are quote unquote outside the system, but have a much better purpose in terms of from beginning to end, and a historical, right? Because now I'm in high school, I can look back and tell you a lot of what it looked like and felt like coming from elementary through middle to where I am now. That's actually not as much representative because they're a little bit siloed with here's high school and here's this. I really hope that we can partner with CEC to get resolutions done through the community boards, something like an audit, for example, and other information to be able to do resolutions about gymatoriums necessarily, and consultation of SCA with the people like principals beforehand. So we can then elevate that. We can take it to other community boards, the community boards through Youth and Ed, get it to CECs, and we spread it through the city in a different way that is very, very viable and speaks to city budgets, which we opine on. And with that, I will shut up.
No, it was all good. We're happy to help on resolutions. I happen to have written a lot of resolutions for CEC. I'll mention that in a second, particularly on the education, on the admissions front. But yeah, again, again, I'm preaching to the choir, but it was troubling, though I think a lot of these things happen disconnected. For once, the community board, CEC, the PTA, the SLT, and the principal were actually all on the same page on this. And though the message came in different times, I think the message was uniform at each one of those steps. And I think it's rare for all those pieces to be so aligned and then still have the SCA deliver not on certain things. So yeah. Preaching to the choir
is that they don't answer to anyone. And I think, what
Yes.
Tammy started to lean into there about, I mean, it's the case with everything, right? is that you have to have them all to put the pressure on. And I think that by collaborating with CB2, CB3, and reaching out across the city and writing a joint resolution asking for this audit and having our elected officials help us with this will create a much more comprehensive strategy in then putting pressure on them to move. And it's always been through the press and elected officials when they weren't moving that they started moving. And
I agree with that.
it's unfortunate, but that's our history. I would like to think that going forward, we could have it be different. And I think that this is one of the ways to do it, is to let, I think if they're audited, they'll know that the community boards are now going to be much more connected and aware, and that they're going to have to be more accountable. So that is in the plans, and our committee will start working on that very soon. I've actually reached out to CB2 to connect with them about it, which I know is a very, they're very present at the CEC District 2 meetings. So I might be coming to visit you at your meeting.
Please do.
Talk more about it. So anybody
So-
else have any questions for Kush?
Well, that's just for that. If I do want to address if you have time, I do want to address what do you call it? The emissions. You have several emissions questions, which I actually might give you some more color on.
Yes, please.
So one, I heard you mention high school. I know that's a pain point for many of you. I have a 7th grader, and I'll be going through it next year. Yes, that's quite troubling. You said 20% of the people didn't get matches. I mostly agree with you. The actual percentages from the Department of Enrollment is actually 18%. But what was troubling, particularly troubling about that, was that it was 18% for the 2nd year in a row, after significant enrollment loss during that time. If off the top of my head, I believe it was a 7% enrollment drop in our district, and yet there was still the same number of not matches. The Department of Education, and coincidentally, I happened to have a meeting, and Sarah Kleinhandler, the head of enrollment, sat across from me, and I had a conversation with her about exactly this. Offers are coming out tomorrow, as Kelly McGuire said. You should check, for those who are looking though, they should check. Some offers were leaked accidentally by the DOE, and they seem to do this every year, and I can't really figure out why they haven't gotten their act together on this, but I don't really care. It's the least of my troubles with them. But some offers were leaked at the beginning of this today in the morning. Some more were leaked at 2 p.m. and some more I think are coming out tonight. I don't know if because of that they may release early. So anyone that is looking for these high school offers, please do check or consider checking. At the same time, I think word has already gotten out to a lot of parents, and the site has often crashed and been down for the rest of the day. But I'll just throw it out there since I have that information. But back to the 18%, I told her, just so some people may not be aware, a lot of the reason for that 18% is such a high number is happened as Mayor de Blasio left. He eliminated District 2 priority. Well, first of all, some schools chose to do so on their own from pressure from DOE superintendents and executive superintendents. And then Mayor de Blasio formally got rid of it across the board, but only for Manhattan. And CECD2 has written several resolutions on this issue, and we've spoken to our borough president, we've spoken to the Department of Enrollment, we've spoken to the deputy chancellor and the chancellor himself on all these things. And yet they chose to maintain, and they had an opportunity to change it, but they maintained it for this year. And that is the large reason for that 18%. Parents may not be aware of that technicality. And that is something that if you can help the CEC echo at your community boards, that would be helpful. Rosa, you have your hand raised on this?
Yes, I'm just trying to see if I understand you correctly. So you're basically saying that our district is open to everybody. All the other
Yes.
districts are closed. So then to me, that's like a simple math problem, right?
It is. Well, it's a little more complicated. So yes, so it's a little more complicated in that not all districts have priority, but all other boroughs, except for Manhattan, absolutely do have priority. So Queens has a priority within their own borough, Brooklyn has priority within their own borough, et cetera, et cetera.
So
Manhattan enjoys no such priority.
why
the
is
reason-
that? I'm sorry, assume I know nothing.
Let
I
me
know
talk
nothing.
through it and I'll explain. District 2 had a particular problem, and they had more graduating students than there were seats available in our district. So because of that, some high schools were created specifically to fill that need. Elro and others, Tammy might even know these names better than I. Elro being one of them, for example. And in any case, those students, graduating students, enjoyed priority at those schools. The reason for elimination was nominally because not that many districts enjoyed such priority. We fought that the previous CEC fought that, or members of it did, because they said that these schools were created specifically to create overflow from District 2. I don't have all these numbers at the top of my head, but District 2 has a larger number of graduating students, a larger number of unmet seats. I believe it's on the order of 700 students, 500 to 700 students, and that's why these high schools were created. Nonetheless, it was deemed that was it really became more of an equity matter. Mayor de Blasio felt, I don't know, I'll call a spade a spade. District 2 is viewed as privileged. It was eliminated largely because of that issue. That's how I see it. There's more nuance there, but I'll call a spade a spade. I'm known on my CEC for being blunt. I'll be blunt with you.
But if it's a simple math question, then where are our students expected to go?
Aha.
So I can add a little. I can add a little bit.
I'm sorry, and that's not brilliant speaking. That's just
Nope.
common sense. Where are our students supposed to go?
My
So
take is the
It's
punitive
not
measurement.
only, it was not only an equity issue. There were people that talk about uncomfortable things, but to talk about is they brought in. There was someone who said that District 2 schools were racist.
Yes,
They
this comes up
called
often.
they called the whole set of schools racist, and it set off an incredibly difficult time at the CEC. There was infighting, there was disrespectful speech, if I'm going to be perfectly blunt, and it was one of our lowest moments in my view as a community of schools. And unfortunately, I think some of the decisions they made, much like our political system today, when you swing really wide, you tend to not be as thorough and as sensitive to creating the very thing they were accusing this district of not having. And I think that they swung so wide to overcorrect what arguably was inequitable in terms of the advantages we had as a district. We had Millennium, which was a school that only took kids below Houston Street. But what people forget is the school was built with September 11 funds. You know, the School Construction Authority didn't pay for Millennium. And one of the prerequisites when the money was dispersed for Millennium was that it served the kids in this community. Why? Because we didn't have a high school anywhere near here, like nowhere near here. And so the schools that have come here later came here after Millennium, like Richard Green. That was because there was an overcrowded high school or elementary school on the Upper East Side that they moved Richard Green downtown. That's the only reason they're here. And they came after Millennium. So that's important to clear up, right? It wasn't that we were, you know, keeping it all for ourselves, Millennium. It was the way that the school was built to be from the beginning. Lab was the same way. It was a District 2 preference for lab. But as you just pointed out, Brooklyn had many
So
of
was Elrose. There was a whole list of them, and none
There's
of
a whole
them are
list.
anymore.
There aren't. And it could be a better thing,
But
but
you know what? But
and
you have Millennium Manhattan, which has zero priority for Manhattan anymore, but Millennium Brooklyn has full priority for Brooklyn.
so this is what we weren't told and what we expected was that if they lift all the district preferences, then they should be doing it across the board. It is
I agree
incredibly
with you.
unsettling that they have singled out Manhattan. And I would ask you to take that back and I will come and speak on that because I did not know that was still happening.
Oh,
And
it's still the case. Can I share my screen for a moment?
Please.
But where
Um,
I don't understand, where are our students going?
That's the problem.
Rosa, you have an opportunity. You can apply to the schools, but if it depends, A, on your lottery number, and B, if you meet the qualifications, but you do not have as good of a chance. If you had the same lottery number as somebody from Brooklyn, you do not have as good of a chance to get in.
So that is why we are bleeding families.
Correct.
Because they're
Correct.
paying more attention, frankly. And
Correct.
Correct.
Because I mean,
They're
I know
moving
a
away.
District 2 family whose son is in school in Brooklyn, and she has to she had to change her work hours to be able to accommodate. She actually takes him because it takes an hour and 40 minutes for him to get to school.
That is insane.
So she drives, adding to congestion, I might add.
If I could draw attention to the screen, since we're on the topic of high schools, just so you know, these are all the resolutions RCEC has passed since my term. And by the way, 2/3 written by me. And a lot of them are admissions. And I'll point out when we joined office, we actually had 3 resolutions ready to go on our first day. We were told repeatedly that we couldn't actually introduce resolutions on that day, but we actually found the procedure and an arcane procedure by which we could do it. And we found this issue important enough to do it on our very first day of office. And one of them is Resolution 170, supporting middle school graduates who did not receive their high school choices. If you go through this whole admissions list, there's a bunch of other things on here that deal with high school. I'll also transition to middle school. A lot of them also deal with middle school.
What have been the responses that you've got from them?
Well, the first responses were, if you keep in mind, were to the Carranza administration, and it was dead silence. The answers we've gotten towards the end, I'll say this we have gotten meetings, high-level meetings, with enrollment, with all the way up to the head of enrollment, Sarah Kleinhender, who knows me quite well now, as a thorn in her side. We've had meetings with our district superintendent. We've had meetings with the district, with high school district superintendents. And I said, we've had meetings all the way on up to the chancellor. They listened to us, but in the end, they didn't address this issue and they never gave us a good explanation for this. I can say we moved the needle a little bit in the high school admissions, which was a pure lottery last year. They've narrowed the buckets quite a bit, and it's much less of a lottery, but it really didn't go as far as I would have liked. But it's, I don't know, it's been an improvement. I've been in the paper quoted on some of this. I don't know what to say. Feel free to look through here. It's dense, it's deep, but I wouldn't go through all the history because a lot of the more
Do me a favor, share the link, and then share the link through with Lucy, who's the host. And then what we'll do is we'll have you come back and present next month.
Okay. I would start, if you're interested in admissions, go down to the bottom and then go back till you see something in high school and click on that one, read that, and it'll usually have links to all the previous resolutions we've passed.
Can I ask you a favor? Because I would like to also pass a resolution learning this about schools that are still maintaining district preferences. Could you send me a list of the schools in Brooklyn and Queens and the other boroughs that are still maintaining those preferences? I don't
know that off the top of my head, but I know someone who might. So let's happy to talk more about that.
I think it could be good to circulate this and have all the community boards pass resolutions on this. It's completely inequitable. You know, I think that to do this for Manhattan and not for the city as a whole, if they want to drop these preferences and go full lottery, is unethical.
I hear you. And to sum up, some of these things were said. Look, we basically said we still should have district. You know, I'll tell you the most recent resolution in high school basically said something to the effect of, look, the district priority for District 2 exists for a reason, and we talked about some of them. You should really reinstate the district priority. And just so you know, District 2 is 40% of Manhattan. And we have a disproportionate number of kids who, like I said, don't have seats, and disproportionate number of kids that actually continue on to high school and college. But if you're not willing to do district priority, you should at least do borough priority, so we're on the same footing as other boroughs. And if you're unwilling to do either of those, we're even happy with no priority for anybody. But you can't have. I mean, it's basically it's Manhattan and District 2 being targeted, and that's unconscionable. That's basically what they're all going to say. And just to give you a preview, I'm happy to continue the conversation in high school, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But transitioning to middle school, there is some more division here. But in regards to families leaving, we do strongly feel that, and this is we disagree heavily with Superintendent McGuire on this. We also feel a strong reason for families leaving is there is a similar concern in middle school because it's become all lottery for all parents. Just so you know, we as a council, a number of us are elected that believe in GNT, believe in specialized high school, and believe in screen middle schools. I'll say that again, just bluntly. But if you again go through these resolutions, none of those resolutions called for an elimination of schools that for families that do prefer lottery. We asked for a full continuum of schools as one of the largest districts. We asked for continuum of schools that had screened admissions, that took in kids that aren't performing above grade level uniformly. We asked for large schools to have some sort of, whether you call it honors or accelerated courses. And we asked for schools that have traditionally been lottery to maintain their lottery system. And on the first end, we asked for basically schools that used to be screened to be reinstated. And to work with the community for maybe what those standards would be for admissions. We didn't get that. They feel that they are providing acceleration enough, and Kelly McGuire addressed that they are providing enough acceleration under the new plan, which we haven't fully seen yet, isn't fully, I think, baked. We disagree. It doesn't fully address kids that are actually performing a year or more ahead, which they are doing, graduating from some of these schools, particularly high-performing ones, particularly GNT ones. And furthermore, the plan really only provides acceleration in math, does not provide an acceleration in science, social studies, or ELA. I see a hand up, so happy to pause here and take a question.
Thanks. I just want you to know the work you're doing is really great and it's really hard. And, I feel like it's just deja vu all over again. But one of the things that I wondered as a parent, my kids are all out of the process now, but 2 of my 3 kids went to Bronx Science. So they had a very long commute from Lower Manhattan all the way up there. But we chose to do that. But to hear that there is a middle school child having an hour and 40-minute commute, I mean, is there a time limit on commuting times? Because the one thing I'll just say is that, science study after science study is that, kids should not be getting up so early. They need a lot more sleep at this age. Is that been written in the resolution, just like how the science of a long commute is just messed up?
I don't know if that specifically has been in there. I know other community education councils have included that.
I think it should be included. Well, I think that will have more resonance because, I mean, I've been through your whole thing before. De Blasio did not believe in screened anything. But I will just say in terms of long commutes, I think the science is clear. I mean, I look back on it and I'm not sure it was such a good idea to have such a long commute. It definitely caused a lot of stress, but we chose to do that. But I mean, just if you win the lottery and all of a sudden you have to go out to Staten Island, I don't know how you do that.
I'm with you.
There's no other, it's important to say too, there's no other school system in the United States of America that does that. And I think that it's a really big decision that at the very least should require a full-blown study to look at the ramifications of running a system like this. And in addition, it would be very important if they're talking about, opportunity to make sure that they acclimate the parents with the schools that they're actually going to be sending their kids to. Because they're making parents believe that a list of 12, which is a very big list, that in that list, they should expect to be able to go to one of those schools. And if 20% are not getting any of those matches, and then they are not providing that match within those 12 after the fact, then they are not meeting their responsibility. And they have a responsibility to make sure every parent has had the opportunity to know the schools that are on their list and where their children are going. And if they fail, they will then lose the families. And while they may not experience the panic of that the year it happens, when they watch enrollment drop, when they watch the money that the parents bring to the school system leave the school system when they're just perennially underfunded, they will then be returning to 1974. And this will be where you see urban flight. There are a million reasons why they need to get this right. And what they're doing now is they are taking a risk that they are unprepared to deal with the consequences of.
I'd love
And
to have you say that. I don't mean to cut you
it's
off. Go
really
ahead.
unfortunate. And, you know, everybody can see this coming. And I think it's magical thinking to think you can meet the needs of all students of all levels and those with disabilities in a school system that still has not reduced class sizes. And Kelly McGuire is one of the best educators I have ever met. He ran a school that was able to meet the needs of all of his students. I experienced it myself. But I find that more the exception than the rule in this school system, having now, you know, 2 kids in college and having gone through this. And I think it's a big risk to take. And I think being overconfident about it as a superintendent of any of our superintendents, and I'm a huge fan of Kelly's, it's disappointing to hear he's at odds with our CEC, but I think it is magical thinking to think that that's just going to happen without some strategy. And because, you know, kids with disabilities in a class of 34, you have nonverbal and dyslexic kids as 12 of the children, right? You've got 2 teachers. If you have nonverbal children and dyslexic children and you have one special ed teacher trying to teach to those kids, you've failed before you've started, you know? And I think that this is something we just have to digest as a city and just make some really important decisions. So no, 3 years later, it's not acceptable to still be at 20% with no matches. And I would like to commit that this, you know, committee come together, once again, form a resolution, use the data that we now have from 3 years, if you can help us get it, Kaushik. I would
It's in
love
some
to.
of those things, and I can show you where some of the other stuff is. But go ahead.
It'd be great if you could come back and visit us after the acceptances and work with us on developing a co-resolution with CB2 and 3, which are in our district as well. And make this resolution, and hopefully it will have some impact. Because I mean, I can see how much time you've spent doing these resolutions. Now we need to go and make sure they have impact, you know?
Yeah, and I would
Uh,
just ask you to pursue the science of commuting time, because that is that's more of a hard, you know, it's universally, you know, it's a universal fact type of thing. Because a lot of the other things that Trish and I know completely what works and what doesn't, because our kids have gone through it. It's more subjective, and you can get really ugly really fast.
I hear you. So that's less controversial, I guess.
Yes.
You could say. Gotcha. If you have a link to that, happy to share. I would gladly incorporate
I'll
that.
just Google. That's
I'll take
we know
any help.
we know we've all read these things, so we can find it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I saw another hand raised, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds. And if
Yes,
one last thing to
Sarah.
add after.
Just first of all, it's the most refreshing conversation I've heard in a very long time. So thank you for your honesty, because there are always rare and few and far in between. So thank you so much. Is there a way to get data? Because a lot of families I know are not just leaving for private schools, and they're not leaving the city. Charter schools. A lot are going to charter schools. So is there any way we can, and does the city care if they're not staying in public and going to charter schools, or do they think, well, that's just one of ours anyways?
So no, they do care. Well, again, here's another can of worms. Just I'm looking through some here. So was it confirmed that this is 18%? It was confirmed that it was 18% 2 years in a row. Department of Enrollment has absolutely confirmed that, and it's in one of those. It's in several of the resolutions. So that's definitely true. We don't know what it is for this year. I've already asked for that number. It's sitting at which should, like I said, enrollment offer should come out either tonight or tomorrow. It's supposed to be tomorrow. It might come out earlier tonight. I've already requested that number. I don't know when I'm gonna get it, but yeah, I've already requested it. I've heard that it's better than the 18%. I'm not convinced it's going to be much better. They will also tell you that it's, sorry, I'll get to your questions as well. Sorry, but I just saw that as well. They will tell you that it's because kids in our district put in too many top choices, and they're not all realistic. However, it's again a fallacy in that, because yes, a lot of kids in our district do put in a lot of top choices. Our district is also one of the best performing districts. They are the kids with some of the highest grades. They are the kids with some of the highest test scores. So it's, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a straw man argument, I guess, that they're making. To address your issue, charter schools, just so you know, one of the reasons why I ran for CEC, it was in the candidate statement. My daughter has been in a gen ed system, a charter school, a G&T school, and now what used to be a screen middle school. One of the things I said is, I have another daughter that goes to Hunter. I said, like, look, I've really experienced all forms of public education that you could from the daughters my age, and this is one of the and I've seen what works and doesn't work, and this is one of the reasons why I feel it would be a good representative for you. I can tell you all the way up to the chancellor, they do care that kids do leave for charter schools, but they really they really view charter schools as kind of a drain on resources from the public school system, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with that because I think it's been shown that charter schools clearly in our city are filling a need that hasn't been filled by the DOE in many communities. And it varies immensely from district to district and even charter school to charter school. But in particular, they talk about, if we're having a conversation about equity, and I will remind that I'm Indian, my wife is Hispanic, so my kids are half Indian and half Hispanic, and this affects us too. I think in particular charter schools have filled a lot of demand for Black and Hispanic students, and I think it's unconscionable that charter schools should be attacked so blatantly when they've clearly filled a need where the DOE hasn't. I know it's a far more complex conversation than that, but
well, I think the biggest points is that charter schools abide by a different set of rules, and so
I agree with that.
There is an equity issue because it's run by a board of directors, and they can accept private funding. That's the first thing. Second thing is that they have lower class sizes and higher per pupil spending. Third thing, they do not have to provide their own building. And so the city of New York provides a building for free for a nonprofit that can take private money and have lower class sizes and not have to abide by the same rules as the rest of the city schools. So it's controversial is right, because you have two classes of service with one taxpayer system. And I'm not against charter schools in terms of a school. Like there's one that's like for the arts. I kind of like the idea that there's a middle school for kids who have interests already. I know kids that are raised that they're adults now that went to those kind of middle schools. I think it's kind of interesting. My problem is the lack of equity financially, and that they're both called public schools. And I think one of the reasons the charter schools, some of them do really well, and Eva Moskowitz loves to talk about her graduation rate, which is terrific, but she's got 14 kids in her class. And they're spending, $17,000 per student. Well, yeah, let 1,000 flowers bloom. They should do well. And if we had 14 kids in our second grade in our schools, can you imagine where we'd be today? And so I think, you're going to hear a lot from our community board about, our position on charter schools, because there are families here that go to them. And I don't think anybody, you can ask everybody else in the group here, but from what I've heard from our group, I think that's the biggest concern.
I share those concerns. Look, I'm not actually pro one or the other. I sent my kid there, and I also pulled my kid from there. And so I'm going to say what I said about everything else. I see pros. Look, my kid's been several different systems. I see pros and cons in every single thing. And it's just I think until we have alternatives, though, it doesn't work to just say let's shut them down, because they do clearly serve a community that hasn't had all their needs met. And I agree 100% that it's not apples to apples, and there's all sorts of issues there.
Well, I think they're essential now because the city actually stopped building city public schools.
They did.
and started building more charter schools. So I agree with you that they are essential right now.
Right.
And because of that decision that they made. And so, but I think it is a good question about how the city feels about losing so many families to the city public schools and whether or not they're okay with them moving to the charter school system. You know, I'd be curious to hear.
I mean, I can tell you, Chancellor Banks has mentioned it in more than one speech. He acknowledges that there was a problem. I haven't seen a big change to prevent it, though. To be honest, and just so you know, all this I'm saying this. CECs don't actually opine frequently on charter schools. Everything I'm saying here is just my personal opinion. If you go through these resolutions, I don't think they're really mentioned, except to the extent that they might be mentioned to what she said, that people have been leaving for them as a choice, but they're also listed with they're leaving for charter schools outside New York City and private schools and parochial schools. So I don't have a strong, I'm not saying I'm pro them. I do believe in giving parents choice, broadly speaking.
Right.
And at this point, there are many communities where it's a more viable choice for a parent, and it was for us for 2 years. That's all I can say.
Do
Anyway,
you think they're concerned about the loss of families and lower enrollment citywide right now, especially in
so I'll tell you
Manhattan?
about that. So I did recently have a conversation with some high-level DOE officials. I can tell you that argument doesn't resonate well with the chancellor himself, which I was a little disappointed by, to be honest. Because talking about people leave, you guys have all had examples of people that have left. I 100% agree with you, and it's disheartening to me that the people that are leaving, and not just people, they're informed, knowledgeable, active parents in PTAs and SLTs. I can tell you, some of you may know her, Robin Kelleher, who is my co-chair on admissions and diversity. She is a 9-year parent, a 9-year PTA parent, has been served as PTA president on 3 of those occasions. She serves on CEC with me, has 3 kids in the system, and has been a dedicated public school parent and has never intended to be anything other than that. Is now sending her second child to a private school.
Mhm.
2 out of 3 for mom who's dedicated her life to serving public schools. I think that's terrible, and I think they should absolutely care about parents like this living this. And that's just someone I know personally. I know you guys all have
They don't care.
1 to 5 examples. I am disheartened by how little they care about that.
Yeah, they don't care and they won't care. In fact, we were told when we were really overcrowded way back when that every family that left, it was doing the city a favor because the schools were so overcrowded. It was very offensive.
I don't know how, what to say that I mean, maybe if we can create a website and have a list of everyone who's left and the years they've served as a parent volunteer, maybe that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm at an impasse there.
Well, I really appreciate you coming. It was so incredibly helpful and a pleasure meeting you. And we do appreciate your honesty about what's happening over there. And we would love to have you come back every couple months, and especially after these high school numbers are released, and share some data with us and work together as partners to see what we might be able to accomplish.
Sounds great. I would like to leave you with just a couple of dates I'll leave you with the main website.
Please.
Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday. I think, did you see that in the chat when I put it? Yeah, that's the main website. There's a meeting link there. Please sign up. Please come Tuesday at 6:30. They go for a long time. If you're worried about you can't make it at 6:30, don't worry. Come later. They run quite late. I don't know what resolutions are going to be in the docket. Probably one regarding admissions. Also, after all this admissions stuff comes out, as I mentioned, I'm co-chair of the Admissions and Diversity Committee. I'm almost guaranteeing that we're going to have a committee meeting as well that specifically addresses these issues. Just so you know, it didn't touch on so high school offers are coming out. Just so you know, I also know a principal that just got the kindergarten offers. That's not public yet, but that means that they've gotten them that preliminary list. They're going through them. So I also expect within a month for kindergarten stuff to be out, which also to me means that middle school offers should be somewhere in the middle. So by the time you have your next meeting, you might see all three, you might see two of the above. I would love to hold a committee meeting for admissions and diversity, ideally after all three, but we'll see. We'll see what the timeline of that is. But bottom line, expect all of them to come out within the next month, is what I'll leave you with.
When you
And
say
please-
diversity, are they actually trying to diversify as they do? Because it's a lottery. And, you know, one of the
No,
reasons they did the lottery was to create diversity. Are you finding that it's working?
No, 100% no. So I mean, I could talk forever about all this stuff, but just so you know, the previous committee, there were two separate committees previously, an admissions committee or a screening committee or something like that, and a diversity committee. And one of my first motions was to combine them. And I met a lot of resistance, and I said, why not? Because anytime I mention the word admissions, the next word out of somebody else's mouth is diversity. So I don't see how we can talk about one without the other.
Right.
And so let's just combine them. Obviously, it eventually worked, but yeah, and that was somewhat controversial. But to address your specific point, no, I don't think it works at all. I think during the it's widely touted as that. It's been widely touted, just the history of it. It was done in District 15, and they say it was a success. Not entirely true. I think it did improve diversity there somewhat, but to someone else's point, I don't see your name, Wendy, to Wendy's point, it increases commute times considerably to achieve this diversity. It also led to a flight out of the system, both by wealthy and non-wealthy parents, but more wealthy parents than not, and thereby decreasing the diversity that they seek to achieve. Also, underpinning all of this is it's always been said we want to increase diversity, but we want to do so because it improves academic outcomes. I actually somewhat agree with that. I think that I actually think it can improve outcomes in ELA. It can improve outcomes in social studies. You're not going to convince me it improves outcomes in math. I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me of that. Regardless, let's just say, broadly speaking, I mildly agree that increased diversity does improve academic outcomes. And nowhere where they've implemented lottery have they shown improved academic outcomes to me, which goes back to your original point that I think it's impossible to teach such a broad range of students. And we really have that in New York City, and we really have that in our district. We have kids.
It's impossible if there's 34 students and one teacher. I think it's
even tough, even if you had 14 kids, if you have kids, and we have this in our district, if you have kids that are 3 years ahead in math and kids that are 3 years behind in math, to me, that is impossible to teach both ends of that spectrum. And by the way, to your end, if you are talking about the special education kids, no one ever questions that they need specialized attention. But whenever we talk about the kids that are a year ahead, 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, when we say that they need specialized attention, the answer is almost uniformly no way. And we're one of the few states that don't actually have protections for these kids. And I really believe kids at this end of the spectrum need to be taught differently. And many of them do have their own learning disabilities that doesn't come out, and sometimes it doesn't come out till much later. But anyway, we could talk forever about this. I did say I know you have other topics to move on to. Twice exceptional is absolutely a real thing, and there's many that believe that they find that through the special ed service. I absolutely disagree. I actually think you find that by catering to the high performing kids first, and that's where you tend to find the high exceptional kids. But again, I could talk forever about any of these topics. I hope that's big enough.
I appreciate you coming, and I would love to have it be an ongoing discussion, to have visits with you again when we have more data and context about the admissions for this year, and continue this. I think it's super helpful for all of us to hear from you and reporting back on what's happening at these CEC meetings. And I always try to get there. For some reason, they used to be on Wednesdays, and they changed them to being on our meeting night.
I know that was done a long time
Tuesday
ago.
of the month. I don't know why they did that, but I would implore them to think about changing that schedule, because you've got 3 community boards within the district, and it would be great if we could attend those meetings. And it's a direct overlap. This is unusual. We're meeting tonight. We're doing it because another committee needed a favor with the the Tuesday night. So,
I
um,
hear you. It wasn't my call. That was done before my term started. We are now have a little bit of a difficulty there just because people are used to our meetings not being at Tuesdays as well. But I don't know. We can talk about that. But we did find it difficult to actually. I do think it's impossible to not overlap with any community board. I think there's no way to do that. We have looked at it, and I
mhm.
think regardless of which day we move it, we will kibosh somebody else's community board.
Okay.
So I know you interact with 1, 2, and 3, but I've looked at 5, 6, and others, and there's somebody's not going to be happy regardless of which day we move it to. And
Okay.
I can only offer my
I
apologies.
will
wanted
do-
Jump in
Trisha, I
to
have a
say,
question. Oh,
co-
go ahead.
Yes, Lucy?
I have a question for Mr. Das, which is related to item 6. Tammy has wanted me to create a list of the schools in the district and the contacts, the principals, any their fax numbers, their phone numbers, etc. Mr. Das, would you be able to get that information for me so I don't go crazy through the websites?
We don't have that in a central location. You would be surprised. So we see as CEC members get none of this. And to your point, just so you know, as a sticking point, we don't even get members of DOE's phone numbers. And I can tell you that I have spent a good chunk of my year and a half contacting people from the DOE, writing down their phone numbers, writing down their emails, writing down their assistants' emails and their assistants' phone numbers. And I've told them all the time, I was like, you guys are not celebrities. You shouldn't have hidden phone numbers. You certainly shouldn't have hidden phone numbers from a community education council. I don't get it. It doesn't matter. There's no way to do it. At the end of my term, me and some other CZ members have discussed releasing those numbers and emails, but you didn't hear that from me.
They'll just
Uh,
change.
I'm sure, but they'll be useful for a little while. But anyway, but yeah, I'm with you. But no, I don't have any magic thing. I can see what we have that we do have handy, but we do not receive anything more than you do. I would be trolling through the same websites and all that you have. I could try to give you stuff that I do have handy from my liaisons, and I can ask some other colleagues to do the same.
That
But
would be
no.
helpful. Whatever you have would be helpful. We could cross-reference it. So I appreciate it.
One more hand. Again, I don't want to monopolize time, but I keep seeing
Desi?
hands.
Hello, Desi?
I wanted to thank you, Kaushik, for coming. And I just wanted to say that it continues to be frustrating that kids have to leave where they live to go to a better school. And the whole conversation around diversity generally is about getting kids who are marginalized, who don't have opportunity, to places that have better school systems. But that means that they have to leave and long commutes and everything we just discussed. And so I still don't know why. I mean, I know why, it has to do with taxes and that pays for schools and blah, 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 blah. But we put so much work into trying to create diversity in other places. And I'm not against diversity at all, but it's generally for the sake of either patting themselves on the back for saying they have diversity or for getting kids into a better school system. And neither of which is worth anything, to be honest with you. I'd rather forego diversity and know that kids are living in their neighborhood where their school is stellar and serving them. Diversity, if you live in New York City, diversity can happen in a number of ways. It doesn't have to happen in the school system. It would be wonderful if it did, but if we're simply trying to get kids together and say we've got a Black kid and a brown kid and a mixed kid and an Indian Puerto Rican kid, and here we are, this beautiful fabric of diversity, when kids are traveling an hour and a half to get there, then what the hell does that do for the kid or the family that is completely exhausted because they have 3 hours of commuting a day? So I don't know what we can do to try to shift this conversation into improving schools where they already live. It may be a losing cause, but I feel like it's worth exploring.
I can tell you one thing. First of all,
Thank you so much for that, for sharing that, because we have talked about this so much here. And, I think their heart was in the right place, but you are absolutely correct. We need to create excellent schools everywhere so that our kids are not forced to go elsewhere to get the same thing someone has in that other place. And because that isn't that's equity. You know, diversity is a whole other thing. And this whole thing has been framed under diversity. And I really thank you for sharing that. It was a breath of fresh air to hear you talk about it.
Thank you. If I can make one other comment, the one thing I think you can, just so you know, the chancellor I think does agree with you, and he said that many times. He doesn't. He does tries not to hit people over the head with the equity bat, and I do believe that. He has certainly in speech. However, um, it's frustrating to me as well because while they've done that, at the same time, I was at a city council hearing on education, and the DOE came and the Department of Enrollment presented. And one of the first things they did was celebrate how this year there's much more schools with lottery, which should therefore increase diversity. And they celebrated that. So to me, those two things just don't go hand in hand, because the Chancellor Banks does believe that diversity matters less than just having a good school near your home that you can go to, regardless of what color you are. But that's not what I'm seeing from his implementers. And I feel like a lot of that's because there's so much, well, people and legacy people left over from the de Blasio administration that it's just hard to get out of that rut. And I really wanted to shake things up. The other thing I could say to you, Desi, not to put you in the spot, but look, I said I'm a blunt person, but I'd love to hear more people with your skin color say that. And it's one of the, and I say that as someone I joined, it was one of the reasons why I joined CEC, because that drove a lot of things that you said drove me crazy. And people just don't, well, again, I'll be blunt, people don't hear it when it comes from a white person. I don't know. I know that may be uncomfortable. It may not be a popular thing to say, but I'm calling it spade a spade.
No, I get it and I understand. It's I think it's a much more layered conversation. You know, diversity, equity, inclusion really came out of this 2020 uprising of Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement. And so I love that we're having this rich and vigorous conversation about diversity and equity, but diversity and equity and inclusion clearly are different things. And if we're focusing on one and not the other two, you know, sometimes they all exist in the same conversation and sometimes they don't. And I think that there's this consistent idea that diversity, equity, inclusion are sort of the same thing, and they're not.
Right.
Anyway, we'd welcome your voice at CEC. Please consider coming.
Yes, please
And
come
now,
back.
now I'll really leave you, but I just didn't want to leave any questions hanging. I hope I've.
You
answered
didn't.
your
Gosh,
questions.
thank you so much for having the strength to stay as long as you did tonight. And we really appreciate it. And we'd love to see you again.
Thank you. You,
All
you
right.
guys as well. Please come.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. I
And
am
I
going to
wanna-
leave. I was going to stay around the whole thing, but I am going to leave now because I do have kids to feed. But
It's okay.
thank you.
I want
Thank you for
to
having
first,
me.
Sure, thank you for coming. I first want to thank Christina Muccioli for being so patient. It's terrible being the last person on an agenda. I'd like to introduce her. She is from HRC NYC.
No. We have
No?
Zoe next. We're only on item 3, my dear.
Oh my goodness, you're right. I'm so sorry. Christina, we're coming.
Zoe's next.
Zoe Fortin, I'm sorry I missed
Thank you.
it. Playground NYC, transforming our city through play.
Hi.
Hi,
Now
Zoe.
put video on. Hi. I'll
Thank you
make
for
this
your
quick because
patience as
I
well.
yeah, no, it's totally fine. It actually worked out because I've gotten my toddler to bed. Um, so it's actually very informative for me to join this. I'm calling in from Bed-Stuy. I'm the executive director of Playground NYC, but I have a toddler in 3K and I have not grown up in the US and I'm new to the public school system with this first child. So this has been very informative 2 hours, so thank you. Yeah, I'll make this short. Rosa very kindly invited me to present. Hi, Rosa. Nice to see you. We ended up in the same sort of group talking about school streets with open plans and Transout, and I think that's how we first connected. And I had also been very interested in the Gotham Park development. So it all came together when I shared a little bit about what Playground NYC does. And I don't know if I have permission to share my screen. Maybe that might be best. Not in this browser. That's
I
unfortunate.
granted you permission, so you should be able to share.
It doesn't look like I can. Then Safari. Let me download this app in the meantime. But essentially,
Is it a PDF that you can email me and I'll share it?
Oh yeah. Why don't we do that?
It's Lucy speaking, sorry, just in case.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. And I'll keep talking in the meantime. But Playground NYC was created as a nonprofit in 2016. And what we're most well known for is running the Yard, which is the adventure playground on Governor's Island. So on your side of the city. And an adventure playground, for this who are not familiar, is a concept that comes from Europe. It was created after the war, when playground designers in Denmark and then in the UK started noticing that kids were playing in disintegrated buildings from the war instead of the playgrounds they had designed, which triggered a very interesting conversation about play. And this is like in an era with, when early childhood development is in full bloom. These playground designers started noticing, concepts that are so obvious to us now, I think, but that kids like imaginative play and like to move things around, and the static equipment that we associate with playgrounds is not suited to all kinds of play and the kinds of play that the kids need to develop. So with that, adventure playgrounds came about, and what they usually look like is a closed place where parents and caregivers are not allowed in. We do have a team inside of play workers who are highly trained to work in this environment. And inside, instead of the sort of regular slides and swing combos you would find in a public park playground, kids will find costumes, lumber, tools, arts and craft materials, usually water and sand, and it's just a diversity of materials that support play in a different way. And it also supports play in a way that the 6 to 12-year-olds really need. Lucy, I just sent you the PDF if you want to pull that up. Because what we're finding is that the playgrounds that New York Public Parks currently have, which are, you've all seen it, monkey bars, slide and swings, really serve the really young kids, like up to 3-5-year-olds sometime, in supporting gross motor skills development. But then once kids start, aging out of that phase, they really need a different kind of play. So I'll show you a few pictures when Lucy switches to the PDF. Lucy, let me know if you've gotten it. But so the Yard's immensely successful. It's been open since 2016. It's open every weekend for free to anyone who shows up from April to November. Although this winter has been so mild, I wish we had stayed open through the winter now that the island is open year-round. And sort of, it's been so successful that we're looking for a second location around the city, most likely in the Bronx or in Queens, because those are the zip codes, or South Brooklyn, because those are the zip codes we're not seeing in Governor's Island, with no surprise. It's also been so successful that we have tried to bring this version of play to different neighborhoods, or, sort of closer to families who may not be traveling to Governor's Island. And that usually looks like a pop-up, or in an open street or park, or a public space, or working with schools. Okay, Lucy, you can go ahead. Oh yeah, and actually start this usually by saying, how did you play as a child? And I love seeing the responses in the chat if y'all want to share, because usually people will start sharing things that are outside with peers and what they think is away from adult supervision, which is the kind of play we try to replicate at the Yard. You can scroll down to the pictures. Yeah, you can scroll down. This is what I was just saying. Those are the playgrounds and what they look like. Yeah, you can scroll down. Thank you for being my little assistant. You can go ahead. I'll just keep talking. this is what the yard looks like. So kids have just access to a million different things. Sometimes we don't really know what they're playing, and that's okay, right? That's the magic of play in a way. It's like, I have no idea what's going on in there. They were engrossed in this for hours. There's now incredibly widely available research about how play can support mental health, physical health by being active outside and comfortable outdoors. Experiencing risk and having to take decisions and sort of, you know, decide if we're going to engage with some of these materials or not has also been proven to lower risks of anxieties later. I was really pleased. I don't know who mentioned this sort of current teenager mental health crisis, but it is real, and being able to have the independence to play like the kids can play at the yard is really crucial for healthy development. So that's what we're trying to replicate with some of these materials. You can scroll down, Lucy, I think there's more pictures. There's a lot of recycled materials. We're also working to advocate with the city when they do renovate playgrounds to lift some of the concrete. You'll see the yard has no concrete on the floor, which means it can also act as a rain garden, many other things, which I know a lot of playgrounds renovations are now considering doing that because the sort of constant concrete we have, it's not serving play and not serving our climate change issues. Yeah, you can scroll down. So these are pictures of pop-ups we've done all over the city. They're a little bit different than what we can do at the yard because obviously we can't bring our usual materials in public space. But again, most materials are from the waste stream. So usually a lot of cardboard boxes, tubes, arts and craft materials. And what we're also really trying to advocate for is to reimagine sort of what public space can look like as a child. For anyone who's walked outside their door with a 3-year-old and can, like, you know, remember the sort of like intense panic of like, don't run, hold my hand, all of that. We're trying to, you know, show what the city could look like if kids could move around freely and play on their own block, which some on this call may remember sort of like a version of New York City where that was more widely available. This was in Harlem in 2020. So same idea, letting kids, you know, make their own decision about how they want to play, how they want to use materials, how they want to use space, time, which we feel like in New York City for that age group 6 to 12 is really needed, and we, you know, are dedicated to making that happen for them. They're so often in school and then in homework time and then in organized sports and all kinds of organized activities. So really having that time to play as they want is what we focus on. Lucy, you can keep scrolling, but this is a map of pop-ups we've done over the city, around the city in 2022. We also do a lot of work with schools. So I think, Lucy, that's what's coming up next. A lot of schools, I think, found out in 2020 that their empty black recess top recess yard wasn't quite doing it for what they needed to do. It's like if you play basketball, you might have a hoop. There might be a few kids who are like kicking a ball around, but they were a lot of kids who suddenly didn't know what to do with this much outdoor time on this like big empty space. So this is a partnership we did in Brooklyn with Community Roots. We brought a lot of, again, recycled materials, and suddenly kids who had no friends were collaborating on building these structures. There's costumes in the background, and you know, teachers at first were incredibly worried that kids were going to come back in the classroom dirty, and they did. I'm not going to lie, but they also saw kids who had never, you know, again, never had a friend. Suddenly they're collaborating. They're also coming back to the classroom so much more like ready to focus because they've had a chance to let it out and collaborate and play. And so it serves a lot of school goals overall. This was an indoor version of that at Brighter Choice in Bed-Stuy recently because it was too cold to be in the recess yard. Oh, I should have mentioned, we've also welcomed a ton of field trips at the yard from your districts. I think we've most often worked with PS3, Battery Park School, the Lang School, speaking of Twice Exceptional, and then PS 151, I think Yorkville is also in D2. We've also welcomed a ton of professional development groups. So this was a group of 3K and pre-K DOE educators who came and observed what we did at the yard to try and encourage and empower teachers to foster more play in their classrooms. I'm not sure what's next, Lucy. Keep scrolling. I don't remember what I have next. Oh yeah, some of the things I've already addressed, sort of like the risk-taking and its benefits on mental health. The next picture actually was in front of a public school. So we've worked with a lot of schools to put DOT permits to be able to run school streets. Schools that had their recess yard under renovation or not enough outdoor space or just wanted a safer street for drop off and pickup. So we help a lot of schools put in the DOT permit for a school street and then help them program it and help them like think about what play might look like outside. So this is what it was. It was a lot of like baking soda and vinegar in the school street in front of the school. And this was also sort of interesting in terms of the learning potential of play, because the science teacher suddenly was like, oh my God, they would never want to do this in the classroom, but suddenly they're mixing around all these ingredients, not realizing that they're doing science because it's play, but they are doing science. We've also heard a lot of teachers talk about how through this version of play that we are able to provide at the yard, they've learned and facilitated a lot of conversations with their students. In this picture, Lucy, if you can just crawl up for a second. It's teachers who had been trying to talk about COVID and the trauma to their kids for ages and couldn't really foster sort of productive conversation in the classroom because it's awkward and all of that. But suddenly the kids come to the yard and these 4 kids played COVID responders for hours and hours. This is sort of like a sick patient. And suddenly, you know, through play like this, teachers were able to have these conversations with students. So this is sort of like the program overview. I welcome any questions, but there's obviously many ways we'd love to collaborate with schools in your neighborhood. We're looking for a new location. We also have a LEGO Foundation grant, a LEGO Foundation partnership available right now, which is available to any New Yorker who wants to facilitate play on their streets, in their park, in their school, wherever it is.
What you have?
What's that? Okay. I'll keep going. I'll put the link in the chat, but the grant is a very easy application and available to all. We also have a full scholarship for summer camp for families who are SNAP recipients, and you guys are perfectly located for that because many families who live elsewhere in the city just cannot, you know, get their kid to the ferry terminal for summer camp every morning. But the scholarship is also a very easy application, so I will send you the link, and I would love for you all to send it to any SNAP families, you know, in your area who might benefit from this opportunity. And then, yeah, we're always down to talk about pop-ups. This is what they look like. So for any sort of block parties, open streets, celebrations you might have, we'd be thrilled to come and bring some play to the kids.
Zoe, thank you so much for coming and for giving us that presentation. It's fascinating what you're doing. And
thank you.
It's a thrill to see someone, I mean, the pop-up idea is so brilliant. If people can't get to you, it's such a great idea and potential resource for all of our communities. So, and I wish we could like sit here and have a Q&A for 20 minutes, but we had way too many things early in our agenda. And I want to first apologize how long we kept you waiting. And now I'm going to cut you off. But I think that what I'd love to do is I definitely want to get all the information out to our community. And we have the means to do that. So that's the first thing we will do. And then I would love to have you come back so we could have an opportunity to do more advertising about what you do and maybe bring in some families that could really, you know, use to hear from you and get some other people to the meeting, because it really is unique and exciting. And, you know, we'd love to be supportive of your expansion across the city and whatever we can do to help. So
great. Well, thank you. And I totally understand. I'll put my email in the chat. Please email me anytime. And I'll also get some materials to Rosa, which distribute as you need.
Would you? Because I mean, if we have you on our radar, we can pass those materials. Even if you can't make it, we can always create a discussion item. So definitely, please keep in touch with us. And if we can connect you with our schools, you know, please let us know. We can do that as well.
Thank you. And thanks for having me and for all you do.
Thank you so much again. And now, Christina, thank you for your patience as well. It's been a long meeting tonight. Christina is here from AHRC NYC. They want to talk about the possibility of a preschool program at 83 Main Lane. that supports children between the ages of 3 and 5 with disabilities. So can we welcome and you know, we'd love to hear from you about your company and what you want to be doing with the preschool.
Hi, I'm going to introduce myself. This is Bradford Gonzalez Sussman. Some of you know me from many years ago when I was the borough president's liaison, but I work with the AHRC. And for those of you that don't know, AHRC is actually headquartered in District 1 on Maiden Lane. And it's the largest provider of services for developmentally disabled, intellectually impaired folks in the probably period. But it's really a wonderful organization, and I'll let, and Chris is the vice president for education. She runs all of their schools, and she has very exciting news in that they are thinking of opening up a local nursery school in their Maiden Lane building, which would be very convenient for Community Board 1. But they really have to work, what they'd like to do is work with the Community Board to assess the need before they do so. So that was the reason for our attendance. But I will let Chris talk all about AHRC and all about their wonderful programs. But then we're really going to want to just make this an introduction and really get the board's help and the committee's help in terms of figuring out a way to really find out if there is a need for this school with that they have envisioned. So Chris, take it away.
Can you hear?
Chris,
Yes, can you hear?
I can hear you now. Go.
Yes, hi. Thank you for inviting me. Again, I am the Vice President of Education, and this was a very, very interesting conversation to hear. And I feel like I've lived your lives over and over again. I've gone to more board meetings and council meetings and what have you. And this is an exploratory conversation with you. AHRC is the largest not-for-profit, as Brad said, that serves people with disabilities and intellectual disabilities and autism between the ages of 3 until their later senior years. I am fortunate enough to be the Vice President of Education. And what does that mean? We all went to school. I am like the superintendent. I hold all the degrees, all the certifications, everything that you might need to run a district. And so, in fact, we do have 7 schools. We have 5 preschools in all of the boroughs, and we have 2 elementary schools and 1 middle high school. And our middle high school and elementary schools and high schools were an outgrowth of our preschool. So let me explain to you. So we serve children, they're called, again, we are a state-approved school that is in contract with the DOE, and the children that attend our schools are children that cannot be served in the DOE. They are public school kids. And for whatever reason, they cannot make it in the public schools, or the schools feel that the families feel that the kids can't make it in the schools. So again, when I'm talking about the preschool population, the label that is used, and it's not my label, it's a state education label, is preschoolers with a disability. And as all of you know, the earlier you intervene with the child with a disability, the outcome increases 100-fold, so that when they go into the elementary schools, when they go into the high schools, the amount of special ed services that they will need decreases, if at all. What I did do, though, is we have a space at 83 Maiden Lane. It's absolutely a beautiful space, and it's not a big space. And I was listening to what you were saying. We have a very high adult to child school ratio. The kids, classrooms rather, the kids are, what I'm proposing for this particular. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, go on. I think it was just
Yeah.
background noise.
Oh, okay. The kids with either 6 in one classroom or 8 in another classroom, with a maximum of 9 to 10 classrooms. That being said, I did a preliminary study of your neighborhood and your community. And I did speak with the DOE. And again, in order to open up a program, I do work with the DOE and state ed. And I noticed that although you have private day or nursery schools in your area, and you do have some, what they used to call UPK and are now 3 and 4, I can only identify one, what we call a 4410 program, a school that serves children with disabilities. And what I am proposing in this site is to have both programs for children with disabilities and also for the neighboring community kids who don't have a disability, because as we all talked about before, equity, we're also talking about inclusivity. And we all know that children thrive and prosper when they work and they understand and grow with the idea that we celebrate differences. So I was, when I looked at this, and I guess I'm seeking your guidance, because I did look at the 2019 census from the DOE, and that's old. That was pre-pandemic. And then I just saw some another data bank that kind of told me in the community that you might have about 3,000 children under the ages of 6. But again, I don't know how many children are between the ages of 3 and 5. I don't know how many children might end up going to a preschool that I might serve. And again, it was very curious to see that it looked like you only had one preschool with disability in your entire community. Now, the DOE is in fact incorporating many of the children with disabilities in their 3K, 4K program. And I'm a believer that children should be going to school in their communities, as was said here. And many of my students, yes, they go on that little yellow bus and are taken out of their community. And that's why I'm approaching you, because we want this to be a community school. We want to serve children who live in the neighborhood. And again, I can't find the statistics. And I was just wondering if any of you were aware of other programs such as ours. And it does appear that either children are not served, or they're underserved, or they're being served within the 3K program. And yes, they do that. And what we have found was that a Down syndrome child may start in a 3K program, and within 3 or 4 months, we get a call from the school or from the parents saying, my child has failed and I need a 4410 program. And so, we want to work with families. We honestly and truly believe that it's a parent and school partnership. I was laughing when you talked about the design of schools. We design our schools with our principals and with our staff, and we actually invite families to come in, because you're right, they're the people who live and breathe and use you know, the premises. So that being said, again, you know, we are nationally accredited. We are nationally, you know, we've received all kinds of awards. And, you know, our programs speak for themselves. I urge all of you to go on the AHRC New York City website. You will see, you know, there under schools, you'll see some of our schools. But I was curious to get feedback from you. And again, this is an introduction about whether or not you are even aware of whether or not you have underserved or not served children in your community. I do know when I was on the Manhattan DD Council, and that's the Developmental Disability Council, a representative from the Asian community came to me and absolutely said to me that their community and their children were underserved. And so I want to open a school that is needed and desired. I know that the DOE and the population has declined in New York City. And I want to make sure that we're going to open up a preschool that is desired and wanted. So any feedback that you can
Chris,
give would be great.
Chris, before I open it up, I just wanted to interject one thing. Really what Chris envisioned, or what I listened to her and her colleagues talking about, was a school with a large portion of the attendees getting there by stroller. So this is really a terrific resource for the community, if it is something that there is enough demand for, so that, you know, the school can't survive if there isn't enough demand. For those of you who don't know what Chris was saying about parents being involved, if you don't know the history of AHRC, it was actually it's a 70-plus-year-old. Is it 70 or more? How many years, Chris?
It was formed in 1949 by a parent.
Right.
Child with a disability. That's right.
Right. And the story is that you know, she was having trouble getting play dates for her child, and she put an ad in the Post, and that's how the organization formed. And it's always been a parent-run organization, and so at every level, including the you know, very important educational side of the organization, there's parent involvement.
Yeah. Our bylaws state that 51% or a majority of the board must be parents and or siblings or related to a person with a disability, so that it kind of keeps the focus on the person we support. And to be honest with you, I am a parent of a young gentleman who has a disability, and that's why I'm in this, you know, in this position. But yes, we really do believe that our parents are our partners. We want our parents to be visiting our schools. We want them to have a say in their child's education. We believe in that wholeheartedly. We look at the child as a whole person, that the few hours they're with us doesn't speak to all of the experiences that the child you know, realizes during the day. So again, this is exploratory. You know, we're you know, then I'm not sure of the numbers. I don't know if you guys have the numbers.
Well, Chris, I'd be curious, you know, you said that you found one 4010 program here. Can you let me know what it is?
Yeah, East River. Yeah, it was East River.
It's called East River what?
It's on Grand Street. I'd have to look it up. Hold on. I wrote it down before. It's East River. It's the only one that I can see.
And
Now,
it's
again,
CD1?
That's the only one I can see. Yeah. On the website.
One other thing about Chris's programs obviously they're providing enough support and a high teacher-student ratio to provide support for the developmentally disabled, intellectually impaired children. But I've heard Chris discussing with her colleagues that there really is a slightly broader catchment than that, and maybe Chris can talk about that.
I'm so, you broke up there, Brad. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. That
Yeah.
just there's it. You're planning on serving a pretty broad spectrum of children, right?
Yes, yes. What I'm thinking about is 9 classrooms. And again, we're looking at 3 to 5-year-olds. We would like, again, it's developmentally appropriate. It's child oriented.
Neurodiverse.
And what we are thinking of doing is having a number of classes that are for children with disabilities, but then we also want to have classes, childcare classes. It can be 3K and an after school program as well. You know, we were talking about health and wellness. We have a health and wellness program with Northwell, and our families go on with Northwell virtually to learn about things like tantruming, or my child's a picky eater. And this would be open to any parent, whether the child had a disability or not. I'm having a problem with toilet training. What should I do? My child is not socializing with other children. And again, you know, we have a psychologist, you know, we have therapists, we have certified teachers, you know, we have the full complement of professionals. We're all certified. You know, again, you would find myself and any of our teachers in the public system. I was in the public system at one point. But we're looking to start this program. It will be a small program. We're thinking about 72 children. And yes, we want neighborhood kids. We want kids to go to school in their neighborhoods. As a parent where I live, I lobbied with my own school district because my son, because he had a disability, had to go on a bus and go to another school. And like I heard today, I wanted my son to go to school with the kids that he played with, you know, in front of his house, in the backyard. And so this is what I want for 83 Maiden Lane. But, you know, I need to know that there is a need. And I am, you know, we were talking about flight. I've seen a contraction of enrollment across the board. And so I'm, you know, and again, I was shocked to see that I only found one 4410 program serving your community.
It's
Now,
actually not serving our community. It's on
it
the
is-
river. It's in a different community
Oh.
board. So
Oh.
we don't have, I just took a look at it. It's on the East River and that is not on our community board. So it looks like we have none. So I have to imagine that we would be in need of it. I wasn't even aware of your organization. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming. It's incredibly important that we know that you're here. And, you know, maybe we can strategize about what kind of outreach we can do so that you can take a pulse of who would be interested in something like this. You know, it's very difficult. I mean, having done this for such a long time, it's much easier to get to the families once they hit kindergarten because we just call the schools. But not all children go to preschool. And a lot of these families, we don't even hear from them until they're in elementary school. So we don't even know they're here.
Right.
We do have one, Hudson River Park Mothers is a mothers group that someone started here about 18 years ago. And that would be a great place to start because this organization is for new mothers.
Okay.
And so I think that maybe connecting you with HRP Mamas could be a good idea. And then we can you know, talk amongst ourselves on the committee and see if we can come up with some other ideas of ways to connect you with some people that might have the answers you're looking for.
That would be great.
And maybe even if there's some interest on the committee with setting up some sort of a survey, we'd be happy to speak at the full board meeting if you'd like us to. You know, really, Chris needs to assess the needs so they can go forward with a very robust and exciting program there if the need is in the community. So
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even on our Community Board One mailing list, oftentimes
that would be
there
great.
are as many parents of babies and very young children because they haven't engaged with the community board yet. You know, it really is our schools that are the center of our communities. And as you said, we don't have a school that does this. We have 22 preschools here, and I don't think one of them serves children with disabilities.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is call one of them, who is our tenant actually downstairs, and I'm going to ask them because they might have some ideas. You know, there are small things that we can do individually on this community board. And certainly we could send out you know, we have a community board blast that, you know, we use to notify people of things, but I wouldn't want to set up the expectation that it's the be all end all because we don't have many, like I said, families with very young children. So
can I ask you a question? Do you reach out to families under the age of 5? Because you know, often they are voiceless. And
well, I mean, we just don't know where they are yet. You know,
Yes,
let's say
yeah.
someone moves into the neighborhood, right? Their neighbors are going to know who they are, but until they hit the schools, they're not connected with the community board. Some people don't even know we exist
Yeah.
until they have a problem with trash or, or you know, getting into kindergarten.
Right.
So what I'll say is we will, you know, speak amongst ourselves, try to strategize for you, see what we might be able to come up with as a path forward. I noticed that Wendy's hand's been up a while. Wendy?
Yeah, and my immediate thought about this is wonderful because I had a twice exceptional kid. I still have a twice exceptional kid who's in college now. But at the time, when he was young, we got connected with Support by Design, which used to be
Yes.
on Reed
Yeah.
Street. And I will tell you, they were a tremendous resource. And when they closed down, I was one of the many families that literally cried when they left. So I know you're starting a preschool, but I will just say if you can also connect with some sort of Support by Design for kids that have physical, you know, speech, mental health, whatever it is, at very young ages. I mean, these were little babies going in there and working on their physical, you know, gross motor and fine motor skills. So it was just a great resource. So in terms of after school,
That would
or
be splendid. Yeah, that's a good idea because
I will just tell you that
OGs and PGs.
Support by Design, just there's nothing close to it. And when they closed down, I couldn't find anything
Good idea.
equivalent. So that's one thing. And that was a very long time ago when that happened. I mean, they've been closed for probably 15 years.
They're actually up on Beach Street.
Oh,
now.
did they
They
move?
moved
Okay.
from Reed to Beach, yeah, but it's a smaller facility and my daughter was there as well. And
Yeah,
that's
it was great.
Yeah.
And so the other thing is that all the OBGYN and the pediatricians. So I would say if you haven't reached out to, you know, Tribeca Pediatrics, and there's, you know, many others as well, they know more than actually the community board or the government, you know,
Yep.
who's who. So you probably already had that thought, but to me, that's, you know, I don't know if they would, you know, they have privacy concerns, but I know that you can at least, you know, put up signs or notifications. And then I think, you know, the idea is there are mothers groups, HRP Mamas have it, but there's other mothers groups as well that often get advertised through the pediatrician's office.
Yes.
So that's what I would also, because they even help set them up. And then of course the hospitals, not just downtown, but all the hospitals, you know, because I don't know how long it's going to take you to open the school. You know, Trish and I think about opening schools and it takes 10 years. Like, are you going to have a school in 2 years or 10 years, or what do you think?
Oh, a year. I've done this before, And it will be, I imagine, either January or June of next year. And you're,
And is this a private, is it, because how is it funded, or do parents have to pay?
it's funded through state education. The children are recognized as having a disability. They go through a DOE Committee on Preschool Special Ed
Right.
meeting. And those kids, we receive the money from state ed. It goes through the DOE and they pay us. So the parents pay. But if
Chris,
I,
can
yeah,
I touch on something there?
yeah,
Just so everyone, if you're not familiar with the 4410 programs, this is really something that's very synergistic with the New
Yeah.
York City public schools. So when you hear about parents that are having to sue to get into a program with sufficient services, that's not this. This
Yeah.
is where parents are choosing a program that the New York City schools also chose to provide the services. So it's like everyone's in agreement that this is the best way to serve certain kids that need the support that's available there. It's not something that is cannibalizing DOE, and it's not something that parents are being forced to take.
And I am thinking of opening, Wendy, to answer your question, a parent funded, a private pay classrooms. And I'll tell you why. I've done that before in my other programs. And what I've learned is that sometimes families who have concerns with their toddlers and their preschoolers, but don't want their child labeled, don't want them to go before the Department of Education, but realize that the child may be at risk or immature, gravitate to a preschool like ours because they know that I have certified teachers. They know that if, in their classes, and this would be a gen ed class, early childhood class, a 3K class, and they know full well that if we see something, we are able to provide a service for that child. That immediately, if child has some OT needs, we look at the classroom, we look at the child, and again, we're language enriched. We have smart boards, we have computers, we have all of that. So, so it's that kind of program. And quite frankly, we've been very successful.
I think you're going to find that people will come, and the hardest part is that, just to your point, you don't know exactly how many babies are being born right now in the neighborhood. It's just hard to tell.
Yes. And again,
those are some great resources for you that Wendy mentioned. And I'll just repeat them, Chris.
Yeah.
It's HRP Mamas.
Yeah.
And then Tribeca Pediatrics.
Yeah.
One of many pediatricians here. I wouldn't want to say it's the only one. There's many, and that should be easy for you to research if you haven't already. But those are two great places to start. And then we can check with some of our preschools and see if they have had any families that have come to them that they're unable to serve, and see if they have ideas for us as well. And then you could liaise, we'll get the information to Lucy and she can liaise with you about what we have discovered.
Be great.
But those are some great first steps.
Right.
And then, definitely feel free to come back and visit us again and let us know, how things are going and what you've been able to, accomplish and what further we might be able to help with.
That would be great. I really appreciate it. And again, I really enjoyed being part of your meeting today. It was enlightening and refreshing.
Well, thank you. You're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you.
And I'd like to express gratitude on behalf of my 3-year-old and 5-year-old that got to watch an extra TV show while I was on this meeting.
Wonderful. Well, it's nice to hear from you again, Bradford, and all the best to you both, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Okay, thanks so much.
All righty.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Sure. We'll be in touch. And everyone, I think that's it for our meeting tonight, unless anybody has some new business they'd like to bring up.
Well, PS 150, were they here or not? I don't know, because
I don't see Nico, so.
I don't even know if they were here, so I'll email them and invite them again.
Yeah.
And item 6, as I said, Tammy wants me to create a list, which I created it to the best of my ability, but if you guys have schools and contacts, information of people in the schools that I can contact, because she wants us to blast out, you know, the agendas and invite them to the future meetings, please send those
You mean schools beyond our community board?
within our community,
Oh,
within
within
our
our-
school district, excuse me, I'm tired, within our
Don't you
school
have,
district.
don't you have like all our 6 elementary schools? You don't have the
I
contact?
created what I found to the best of my ability, and some of the sites don't even have the listing of the phone numbers or the emails, etc. So anything that anyone can give me, I will just keep adding. And she just wants to start creating a bigger list to invite people to the youth meeting.
I think you guys have everybody from our schools, but let's go over it. We have
Thank you.
on our board between public and full members. I think we have all the schools represented here, maybe not Peck Slip, but I will send you Peck and I will send you 234 and we have Rosa for 150. We've got Sarah for Spruce. Do you still have Spruce's information, Sarah?
I can share what I created and then you guys can edit it and go from there.
I think that's
Thank
a
you.
great idea. We'll get it done.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Have a good night and thanks for coming and we'll see you at the full board.
Thank you so much.
Good
Bye.
night, everybody.
Great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Of your week.